Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, our weekly look at what's going on at the state legislature, and we'll hear from local officials on what's being done to try to stop the spread of measles. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Each week we focus on what lawmakers are up to at the state capitol with our legislative update. And tonight we get the latest from Jim Small. He is the Arizona News Service editor of Arizona Capital Times. I want to get your full title in there now. I don't want to sell you short here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. He kept hearing that the legislature was going to be quiet until the Super Bowl left, and then all you know what was going to break loose. Is anything breaking loose?
Not so much. I mean, that was kind of one of the theories that, there weren't some of the quote-unquote crazy bills that had been introduced. There hadn't been a lot of that. And some people were kind of trying to speculate as to, well, why not? It's not as though the makeup of this legislature is dramatically, different than it has been in the past couple of years. And that was one of the theories, was that, well, there's kind of, the word went out, from the governor's office, from the new governor, that let's wait until after the Super Bowl, or leadership had kind of said, wait until after the Super Bowl, we'll be out of the spotlight, and then we're not going to be embarrassing the state or bringing, we already have a spotlight on us, let's not do anything to amplify that spotlight. Super Bowl's come and gone. Senate has had its deadline for introducing bills, was on Monday, and there really wasn't anything, much in the way of bills that are making a lot of waves. And the House has its deadline next Monday, to the final deadline for introducing bills. And I don't know. We'll see what we get by the end of the week. There's some thought that some stuff may be still in the pipeline coming down, but there's also another school of thought that the governor's office, Governor Ducey, was proactive, and that he and his staff and his allies had really reached out to lawmakers and said, look, we got a lot on our plate this first year. We've got a massive budget deficit. We got, we're all kind of new here. We got a lot of new faces, a lot of new people trying to figure out these jobs. Let's go ahead and hold off. Let's just focus, kind of keep our heads down and focus on what we need to get done. And let's not worry about some of these extracurricular things, or some of these things that are going to put us in a negative light nationally. Let's get this budget deficit solved. You guys, legislators, you'll all have a second year down here. You can come back and tackle this next year, and maybe I'll be more friendly to it.
But you know as well as anyone, there are some lawmakers down there who just simply wouldn't agree to something like that at all. They want their issues taken up, and taken up now. Well,
sure, and so far it looks as though Governor Ducey and Republican leadership are on a good working, have a good working platform, which is something that was really difficult to say. I think between Governor Brewer and the Republican leadership, they were most often, butting heads on a lot of issues, and so if she were to come to them and say, look, can you guys, maybe put the kibosh on these kinds of issues, they might not have been receptive to it. So far it seems as though has been some receptiveness from Republican leadership, so even if rank and file members are going to go out and introduce something that maybe the governor doesn't like, it's no guarantee that bill's ever going to get a committee hearing, ever going to see the light of day. 90 people down there can introduce 1,500 things, and they do every year, and at the end of the day, maybe half of them move forward in a committee hearing, and only about 300 or 400 are ever going to become law.
I know your guys' story. You had a lot of folks quoted as saying, I'm just tired, right? There's a lot of fatigue down here. We don't go through what we have gone through the past few years, and yet Representative Shope was saying the governor's office told him that they don't want another 1062.
Yeah, I don't think they do in this first year. I think Governor Ducey kind of ran on this platform of transforming Arizona in a lot of ways, and I think one of those ways certainly is from the PR side, and the perception of Arizona side, and not having Arizona kind of be at the forefront of this, these national stories, being on the Daily Show, being lampooned in the national media for for legislation that some people are going to say is crazy or extreme or ridiculous or whatever, and so it seems as though his office has really tried to make sure that they have those bridges in place with legislators, with leadership, to A, prevent some of this stuff from even coming forward at all, and B, if it does get introduced, to make sure that it really doesn't get a chance to germinate and turn into a national spectacle, maybe like 1062 did.
It sounds as though this budget, it's obviously still the 900-pound gorilla sitting out there in the corner of the room. However, it could be a short session if this holds true.
It could be, but I think that there's a big caveat there. Certainly The budget that Governor Ducey proposed has the buy-in so far of Senate President Andy Biggs and House Speaker David Gowan, and it looks like a lot of Republicans are generally, I think, with the broad strokes of that budget plan, they support it. But the issue is going to be that budget plan doesn't account for this K-12 lawsuit, this funding lawsuit.
Yes.
And there's two components of that are still very much up in the air, and specifically the money going forward, the resetting of this baseline funding level. It accounts for the amount the legislature is arguing in court that they should owe, not what a trial court has already said they owe. That issues before the appellate court. If the appellate court issues a ruling or sometime before they get out of session or even after they get out of session, I mean, if they were to pass a budget by the end of the month and then 2 weeks later if the appellate court says, no, you actually owe this extra money to K-12 schools, well, that blows that budget to pieces, and that means that they've got to come back and they've got to fix that.
And I've asked this numerous times, and it sounds like I keep hearing, no, not really, I keep thinking there's got to be a plan B in some shelf somewhere, some drawer hanging around. I mean, they have to have a contingency plan, don't you?
Well, I think that there is contingency planning. I don't know that they have a contingency plan finalized yet. And
sure,
I
but
think
is this an outline or an idea where you're going to go or what you're going to do?
Yeah, but I think that there is, and there's options to probably deal with that, but they haven't been released publicly. There hasn't been a public draft of anything, or that they've put out and said, okay, well, if the worst comes to worst case scenario, here's what our budget looks like. And I think that that's because the scope of the problem at that point becomes tremendously larger than what we're talking about right now. It more than, roughly doubles, maybe a little bit more what the problem is. And so I don't know that there's necessarily agreement on how you would deal with that, whether it's between the House Republicans and Senate Republicans in the governor's office. I'm sure that they all have ideas, and they are all actively working on figuring out what they do in case of emergency. When we break the glass, what do we pull out of here? But my guess is that they don't have anything finalized. I mean, if they did, I think we'd probably see some of that, and there'd probably be some indications of it.
Hey, before you go, it looks like there's a push to scale back the open meeting law. What's going on here?
Yeah, a bill that was introduced this week by Senator Sylvia Allen from Snowflake, Republican, that would, in the words of some of the First Amendment attorneys and open, government attorneys, media attorneys that we spoke with, said would essentially gut the open meeting law. And this is the law that requires that public bodies, school board, city councils, the legislature, county board of supervisors, planning and zoning commissions, that all these bodies meet in public, that they publish agendas in advance of the meeting, let the public know when the meeting's going to be, let them into the meeting, let them have, follow this agenda of what's going to happen. And essentially what it would say is a meeting is no longer a quorum of this body that's going to discuss and act on policy changes. It's just a meeting of the body when they act on things, not when they discuss it. So essentially what it would allow for is for any government body, any public body to carry out all of its discussions behind closed doors and then only have to go before the public when they vote. The idea behind it is to try to lessen the impact of these quorum rules, these open meeting rules on boards and commissions where you have only a few members, maybe 3 members or 5 members, where conversations amongst one or 2 or 3 people could potentially trigger an open meeting law violation. But it goes about it in a way that essentially undermines and guts the law for every level of government.
No kidding. And real quickly, this is being pushed by Senator Sylvia Allen. I can't understand why someone who's so anti-government and thinks it's okay now for government to meet secretly.
Yeah, her defense of her explanation of it and her defense of why she's pushing it is, she came to the legislature from the Navajo County Board of Supervisors, which is, I believe it's a 3-member board. So her argument was, look, I can't even talk to my fellow elected officials. Can't talk, if we ride in an elevator together, that constitutes an open meeting law violation, which is a little bit of hyperbole, but, her point being that essentially it limits her ability to have conversations with these people. But in essence, yeah, that's exactly what the law does, because the law is designed to make sure that government officials aren't dealing, aren't essentially rigging the system before they go into a public meeting and are carrying out these discussions in front of the public who they're accountable to.
Interesting. All right, Jim, good stuff. Good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Drive a few miles north of Strawberry on Highway 87, Nearly 20 miles on rugged forest roads along the edge and into the deep woods atop the Mogollon Rim. Then scamper 500 feet down the southern edge of a rocky canyon, and you'll come upon a monument to the Battle of Big Dry Wash. The site looks much as it did on July 17, 1882, when a party of over 50 Apaches under Nattiatish waited to ambush cavalry led by Captain Adna R. Chaffee. The troops were guided by legendary scout Al Sieber, who discovered the Apache's trap and warned the soldiers. The Apache had no idea that they were now surrounded, outnumbered, and they had lost the element of surprise. Nearly half the Apache were killed, including Nattiatish. Only 2 troopers died in the melee. The names of the cavalry that took part in the fight are listed on the back of the rarely visited massive stone monument, including Lieutenant Thomas Cruz, who won the Medal of Honor. The Battle of Big Dry Wash was the last battle fought between the Apaches and Army regulars.
Up to 1,000 people in Arizona may have been exposed to measles in an outbreak that started at Disneyland. The health officials in the state worry that the disease is spreading because parents are not getting their kids vaccinated. Here now to talk about all this is Dr. Kara Christ, Chief Medical Officer for the Arizona Department of Health Services, and Dr. Bob England, Director of the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. Good to have you both here. I think it's good to have you both here. I'm glad you're both here. Let's put it that way.
It's good to be here.
Let's get to some basics and then move on. What is measles?
So measles is a highly contagious disease, one of the most contagious diseases that we know of. It's a virus that can cause fever, cough, runny nose, red eyes, and then the rash that you hear about. The thing about measles is that it can have high complications or bad complications of deafness, blindness, and death. And these kiddos get very sick when you get measles.
How are measles contracted? How is measles, singular, plural, how is measles spread?
This is a wildly infectious disease. It's airborne. You can contract the measles by being in the same room with somebody. When you're way across the room, you can get measles by being in a room where somebody was up to a couple of hours before you entered the room. It hangs around in the air. It is not like colds and flu, where if you're staying just a few feet away, you're unlikely to get coughed on or sneezed on. This thing floats around and it is really, really contagious.
If I'm in a room and it floats over me, how long, I mean, can I go to another room and I'm all of a sudden a problem and don't even realize it?
Not that quickly.
Okay.
So it would take about 7 to 14 days for you to actually come down with symptoms. But the bad thing about measles is you're infectious before you develop symptoms. So up to 4 days before you get the rash, you could walk into a room, not know you're sick, and infect 9 out of 10 unvaccinated people in that room.
Even a day or so before you even have a cough or a sniffle as you start your symptoms.
How serious now is this measles threat in Arizona?
You know, we are still very early in this outbreak, which is a very good thing because we have a shot at containing it right now. By knowing exactly who was infected so far and by tracking their contacts, making sure we've got good information to those contacts, making sure that those individuals, if they're not immunized, aren't going to child care or aren't going to school and so forth. We hope we'll be able to nip this in the bud before it gets too widespread. But I'm really worried because our background rate of immunizations has been slipping over the years, and that is an environment into which this, if it gets dropped, especially into a school that has a really low immunization rate, it could really take off.
Why are vaccination rates slipping over the years? What's going on out there?
Well, we would love to know the exact answer. I think a lot of it has to do with parental fear. I think parenting by internet and seeing a lot of this is just, one of the speculations, but there's been a fear that it's linked to things like autism or that things in the vaccine can cause harm to your child. None of that has been proven. In fact, it's been disproven.
Absolutely. This is one of the most studied questions out there in public health. We have beaten this to death. People looking to try and tie vaccine, in particular MMR vaccine, but also others, to long-term health consequences. It ain't there. It just isn't there.
Then why is the rumor, the information there? I mean, shouldn't this eventually go away? If it's not there, why does it persist?
You know, I think if you hear something often enough, if it gets repeated often enough, even if you don't believe it, it gives you enough doubt. It gives a parent reasonable doubt. I think parents who are afraid and are delaying vaccination, I understand where they're coming from. But vaccine is unlike any other health choice, and you need to understand that. If you decide, you know, whether or not you're going to get a screening exam or whether or not you're going to take a medication, the only person who's affected is you. If you decide not to vaccinate yourself or your kids, everyone around that is at risk, because the way we've controlled these diseases, we used to have 500 kids die a year in this country from measles. The way we've made that so darn rare is by getting our rate of background immunity up high enough that when one person comes into a group with the germ, it doesn't go anywhere. So whether your vaccine worked or not, or if you're somebody who can't get vaccinated because of some other disease, you're still protected because you never get exposed.
That herd vaccine.
Herd immunity.
Okay,
Right.
who should be vaccinated? Who doesn't need to be vaccinated?
Well, so our current guidance is that anybody before 1957, because like Dr. Bob said, it was ubiquitous. I mean, everybody was exposed to measles. So we consider most people from 1957 and earlier vaccinated or immune to measles because they've had it or they've been exposed. But everybody, unless they have a medical contraindication that they should be discussing with their parents, should be vaccinated. Vaccinated against not only measles, but flu, pertussis, any of those vaccine preventable diseases.
If someone were vaccinated for measles, let's say 10, 20, 30 years ago, after 57, but 40 years ago, whatever, do they need a booster?
That would depend. I think most people before 1989, when the two-dose recommendation went into effect, most people have received one dose, and that's about 95 to about 97% effective. You don't get that 99.5, 99.9% effectiveness until you've had two doses.
Those of us who had mumps as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
Did you?
Yeah.
A real thrill for a 6-year-old, let me tell you.
Absolutely.
Do you need, I mean, I've had a measles shot since then, but does the simple fact of having mumps, having measles as a kid, ball game, over?
Yeah, if you actually had the disease, you've got really good protection. If you've had 2 doses of vaccine, you've got really good protection. So either way works. But if you were born before 57 and your parents said, you know what, I don't know how you did it, but you got away with it and you never had the measles and you haven't been vaccinated since, get vaccinated.
Interesting. As far as the law is concerned, and you talked about schools coming in, how does that, aren't kids supposed to be kept out or away from schools if they aren't vaccinated?
Absolutely, and Dr. Bob may be the one to talk better about this, but we do require immunizations to get into school, and those that either cannot get it for medical reasons or decide to opt out, if there is an outbreak or a child who has measles in their school, they will be excluded for the full incubation period.
Yeah, Arizona is one of the states that makes it easy for parents to simply choose, I don't want to vaccinate my kid, and many parents will sign that form. Sometimes it's because they're really afraid. Sometimes it's just convenience. You know, we've got a crazy quilt healthcare system here, and people have to wait for appointments a long time sometimes, and some parents will just sign it out of convenience. Okay, what you gotta know is that if there's a case of measles in your child's school, I've got no choice but to kick your kid and any other non-immune kids out of that school until that outbreak is over. And I've done it before. I hate doing it. It disrupts the kid's education. It disrupts the flow of the school. It disrupts the home life, and some parents can't even go to work because they got to stay home with their kids now. It's an awful thing to do, but I'm doing it not just to protect their kids. I'm doing it to keep their kids from being a vector of disease to somebody else and keeping the outbreak going.
I saw in the media that there was a doctor, an MD, giving advice, don't take this vaccine. How do you respond to that?
I completely disagree with that. I mean, in public health, this is one of the biggest accomplishments in public health is vaccination. And so in order to keep your child safe, to keep the kids around them safe, kids that are medically fragile or cannot receive vaccine. So that would be the babies under 12 months, the kids undergoing treatment for leukemia. They cannot get fully vaccinated. And it's not only designed to protect your child, but all the children and the people around them.
If you can get to herd immunity, that is an incredibly selfish attitude to take. We're all in this life together. And one of the beautiful things to me about herd immunity is that what's protecting me right now, sitting in this room, isn't so much the vaccines I ever got as the vaccines the other people in the room got. So to say that you're going to choose not to vaccinate your kid knowing that you could be putting other lives at risk, measles or anything else, is a selfish attitude.
Real quickly, is that message getting out there? Because it's, again, the vaccination rates aren't climbing, they're going the other direction.
Right. And we have seen a decline in the vaccination rates, and you know, we're doing what we can to try and get them up, but I think, you know, parents have not been exposed to these diseases, the parents of today.
They don't know what they're risking.
They don't know what their risk is.
Yeah, so if parents who've put it off and are confused, I understand, go get vaccinated now. But if you're adamantly anti-vaccine, you're saying that I don't care what happens to my neighbor.
All right, good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
The Department of Transportation recently named Sky Harbor as the #1 airport in the country for small business growth. In the last 2 years, 14 businesses, mostly restaurants, have opened their doors at the airport. Producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Scott Olson profile 2 of these local establishments.
It's the perfect recipe.
Something to eat with that?
Combine good food with good service, and the people will come.
Cervezas is a take on a European gastropub, but fueled with Mexican food. We call it a gastro cantina.
Gonzalo de la Melena opened Cervezas in Terminal 4 2 years ago. He says the keys to success at the airport are simple.
Speed of service is paramount in the airport business. Portability and convenience is also critical. People usually have just a few minutes before they have to get to their flights. So what makes operating in the airport different is that mindset of speed of service. We've driven our speed of service down to 3 minutes or less in order to accommodate the traveling passenger.
Over in the B Gates area, Helen Young and her business partner operate Sweet Republic, an artisan ice cream shop.
Because ice cream is all about traffic flow. We need lots of foot traffic, and there's no more foot traffic than there is at the airport. And we have a lot of people been asking us to, bring our concept to other locations.
Young says the portability of her ice cream, served in cups, cones, or shakes, makes it appealing for travelers. Open since March 2014, Young says she has already seen a tremendous difference in airport food offerings.
People are a lot more excited to come early to the airport and actually have a good time, have a good meal before getting on the plane.
Airport spokesperson Julie Rodriguez says Sky Harbor made a conscious effort to attract small businesses, and it worked.
We have had tremendous feedback, and social media is a really good gauge. Lots of positive tweets and Facebook posts about how great our food is. People are pleasantly surprised when they get near their gate and they find a favorite local restaurant, maybe a restaurant that may have an hour wait in another part of the city they can walk right in and enjoy here at Sky Harbor.
Mike Dixon is one of 100,000 passengers that pass through Sky Harbor every day. He says the airport is a great way to connect with local businesses and get an idea of a city.
What's interesting to me is to be able to see what local things are going on. So if you can catch that at the airport, that's kind of fun, because I'm not leaving the airport. I'm going to fly out in an hour, but if I get a flavor of what Phoenix is like, that's kind of cool.
Terminal 4 now has everything from a rib joint to soul food to full-service restaurants. De la Melena says when small businesses thrive at the airport, it's good news for the state's economy, too.
Small business ownership is really driving our economy for the state of Arizona. If you think about 97% of all jobs in the state of Arizona are small business owned. There's 400,000 small businesses, of which 100,000 are minority owned, growing at a rate 4 times faster. So the future growth of Arizona is really dependent on our ability to get more women and minority owned businesses access to capital, contracts, and owning their own business. It's really the future.
The airport will soon be revamping its retail offerings in Terminal 4, followed by a rehaul of food and retail business in Terminal 3. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.